Last home game of the season, it's probably I'm not defensive about it. Come on! Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video, guys. First things first, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all of that good stuff. And as you can see for today's video, I'm delighted to be joined by Matisse. We're going to be chatting all things Chelsea start to the season, have a little look ahead to the West Ham game. Bro, it's been a while. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. How are you doing first?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Off the back of a win, it's a lot easier to get through the week. Do you know what I mean? You're not reminiscing on points dropped or moments where games could have been won. And yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be on. So I'm looking forward to it. Another London derby coming up now, and these games always very fiercely contested. And I'm not sure what our record is at West Ham. I haven't dug into the numbers, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like an easy game.
No, I don't feel great. I think obviously we lost there last season. I can't remember what season it was. We had that Mendy howler when I think we lost 3-2 a couple of years back. So I don't think the record's great, but yeah, another game to look forward to. Off the back of a win, as you said, always makes things a little bit better. Just quickly looking back sort of at that Bournemouth game and kind of the start to the season in general, bro. I mean, what have you made of it? I know we're only 4 games in, 6 if you count the 2 games against Servette, which I don't think we can really look too much into. I mean, Chelsea sort of where you expected to be. We got 2 wins and lost on a draw. I'm probably looking at it myself and thinking, we've probably got the points I expected us to have. Maybe not from the matches and kind of how it's worked out, but I think 7 points from 12 is probably where I had us at the start of the season.
Yeah. I think it's a reality kind of check in terms of the Palace result, just knowing that this team has to be at it every single game, give the maximum, otherwise they won't leave with the 3 points. They have to really dig deep in those games to leave with the 3 points. So I think that's the one result that I'm looking back on with Palace's start to the season and thinking, could we have just got those 3 points as well? And then you're looking at it and you're thinking, that's a really good, strong start. You don't want to get too far behind the Newcastles, the Aston Villas and whatnot. And the fixtures outside of Man City have been nice to us. I think they've been nice fixtures. They've been good fixtures. So, but yeah, I think this is the bare minimum. I think any more drop points, and I think we would have had a lot more of an unsettled fan base right now, just purely because we're so eager to be in the Champions League again. We're so eager to win a trophy. Everybody just wants to be in a respectable position where we can say, right, we're making the right steps to becoming Chelsea again. And even though it's Maresca's first season, you kind of have to compartmentalize that and put that to a side and say, right, your first season, we're not expecting the philosophy and the style to be implemented immediately. It's going to take time. There's going to be, results and performances. There's going to be learning curves where the manager's making a tactical, maneuver in a starting 11. Everybody's looking at it like, that's not going to be good. But he has to learn that for himself. But the ownership being here 3 years, it's like, yo, you have to make Champions League. You have to put this club back where you found it. So it's mixed emotions. But overall, yeah, this is like just at the threshold of, okay, decent. Now we can really try and kick on and make sure we're where we need to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, after this West Ham game, I think we've got 4 home games on the spin. So it's really now it's time to sort of start making a mark, start showing what we can do. And I think there is potential this season for sure. But as always, there's so many different variables with us. So the consistency of the injuries, how are the players going to pick up the ideas? How's everyone going to sort of gel together? There's still a lot of unknowns, which it can be exciting, but it's also like, oh God, it could go like we could sort of, have a bit of a dip. You're not really sure how these players are going to respond to what's being asked of them. I mean, obviously in the pre-season, bro, we looked all right going forward, not so good defensively. I think that's kind of carried through into the season. Somehow, probably with our worst defensive display of the season against Bournemouth, we managed to keep a clean sheet. Going forward, I think we're all right. But what have you made of us defensively? Obviously, it's going with the Fofana-Colwell partnership. Seems that Cucurella is locked in that left-back slot, and then right back, basically whoever's fit is playing there at the moment, which is not ideal. But what have you made of us defensively? Because there's been a lot of question marks about us. We considered a club record amount of goals last season under Poch, and we still look a little bit shaky, certainly from an organisational standpoint.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, last season was our worst, Premier League defense that we've seen maybe in our lifetimes. We're talking early 90s, the last time our team conceded that many goals in a campaign. So it was atrocious. It was definitely our Achilles heel. We know that we don't have necessarily a 30 goal a season striker up front, but I think we can say that we've got enough attacking depth that the goals should be shared out to a nice degree, and we should make up enough goals between them to say that it's a good enough total for top four. But the defense is a big concern, because I think it's deeper than obviously just the back line, the goalkeeper, who had a great display against Bournemouth, but I don't still fully trust him over the course of a season not to make blunders and errors. The midfield, he has to still find that balance. And I do believe part of that balance that we could have found has potentially gone out on loan. And that's something I'll add on to in a minute. But it's deeper than just those individuals in that back four. And Disasi at right back against Bournemouth, I think in the entire fan base, because we remember last season, you know, I think it was Brentford at home, he played right back. We've seen Disasi in wide areas before, whether it's in a back three with an inverted fullback or it's in a back four with a right back, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it will be his responsibility to take care of the winger that comes up against him. We're not playing traditional wing backs like Conte, Victor Moses to shield him. And he was exposed. And I'm hoping that that's one moment of madness that Maresca won't do again. I'm hoping that I'd rather see Acheampong. I'd rather see, you know, people have even suggested creatively put Cucurella, who played there against Fulham once upon a time, and play him over there. Anybody other than Disasi. You just have to have pace. As soon as Tosin comes on, I never speak about that side of the pitch again, and everything's rosy. Fofana goes out there, and yeah, for me, it just made sense to have some pace over there. But even in the midfield, you know, he's mentioned Enzo in his pressers. He's mentioned trying to find this midfield balance. And I look at Enzo in my preview for the previous game. I was saying I look at Enzo as like a diluted Fabregas when we had him in the pivot, not really offering anything defensively, but he's that deep line playmaker. But he had a destroyer in Nemanja Matic, who was great aerially, great on the ground, strong, you know, long limbs to reach those tackles that you got to reach, unless you're some sort of N'Golo Kante, incredible, you know, recovery tackler. And Caicedo just isn't that level of defensive midfielder, you know.
Do you think Lavia could be that though? Because we've seen Lavia, obviously, you know, he done really well in the pre-season. He was brilliant against City, and then we haven't seen. Well, we saw him 10 minutes against Servette, and we haven't seen him since. I think he could be massive for us this season in terms of, you look at, I know it's only one game against City, but you look at how the midfield's looked since he's come out of it. You know, teams are passing through us with ease. They don't really seem to be that, as you mentioned, that sort of enforcer type guy. I think Lavia could be that guy, but I mean, as you say, this geezer just can't seem to stay fit at the moment. But I think he's really good. He was brilliant against us when he played for Southampton a couple seasons back, and I think he's got all the ingredients that is going to make this midfield so much better balanced. And everyone goes on about Enzo and Caicedo, but actually, I think Lavia could potentially be the most important piece of this midfield.
I think. I rate all of them individually, so this is why it's so annoying that the balance isn't really there at the moment. I think Lavia and Caicedo is as good as we can get in terms of defensive midfield attributes on the pitch in that area. However, I don't think Lavia is a destroyer either. When I watched him at Southampton, there's still parts of his defensive side of the game aerially that he can improve on the ground. He can improve on. We're not getting a Rodri, Matic, Kante, Rice level of, you know, ball winner in regards to shielding the defense properly. But yeah, I think if you put him next to Caicedo, you get the best shield that you could possibly get right now at the club. I think Okechukwu could have helped with this. He's obviously out on loan. I think even Jadon Sancho has got a tackle in him, even though he's not the tallest. He's out on loan and they're developing. Hopefully they come back and they get opportunities. But yeah, I think this is just unfortunately, it's an example of us acquiring really talented players, but not necessarily knowing how they're going to be put together. And it looks so good on paper. And hopefully it still does, because when you put them all on paper, it's beautiful. But if every manager is going to keep complaining about this balance, then we have to take them seriously at some point.
I mean, do you think all three can play together? Because I was watching it against City where we saw them all start for the first time together. It means that Enzo's got to play a little bit further forward, which don't really suit him. We moaned about that so much under Poch last season. I'll be honest, maybe against certain opposition, it could possibly work. But I'm not, so it goes back to balance. But I'm not seeing how those three can play together on a consistent basis and you get the right balance and it works.
I think I haven't fully given up on it, but we almost have to also give up on it, because we haven't built our team for that. You know, if we'd not signed so many 10s, then there'd maybe be an argument for it. A 4-3-3, really pacey, dynamic, attacking, goal scoring wingers, like a Liverpool front three: Firmino, Mane, Salah. And then maybe you have this three-man midfield who don't need to score goals, who don't need to necessarily contribute in that aspect, but they can just play those lovely passes in behind, those lovely passes over the top. They're all capable of playing that pass. And then you rely purely on your front three to score goals. But because we haven't signed goal scoring wingers, we've signed Nkunku's, we've signed Felix's, we've signed Sancho's, we've signed Palmer's, very, inside wingers that need to be in 10 areas, need to combine, need to connect. Doesn't really bode well for then 3 of these guys playing as well. So I personally don't think we've built the team for it. I think we can only play 2. Otherwise it becomes too flat. We play 3, and like you said, we become way too flat in the midfield. There's nobody there to get goals. There's nobody there to crash the box. There's nobody there comfortable doing those things anyway. You'd be playing against them if you asked them to do that. So yeah, it's a bit of a flat midfield. I think if you actually bring an Okuchuku into this, bring a Santos into this, there is a balance somewhere, because then you've got a Santos who's more than capable of crashing the box and scoring. He's done it for Strasbourg. He did it for the Brazil under 20s. You've got an Okuchuku who's capable of being a sitter and physically give something different to the team aerially. And then you could put one of a Caicedo, Lavia, or Enzo, whoever suits best, and suddenly that actually looks quite balanced. But those are the 2 that obviously cost the least and are most likely to be moved on for profit. These are the ones that will cost the most money. But yeah,
it's great having so many options, but at the same time, it's almost a little bit of a curse. So you don't really know how to fit them all in. You don't know what the best setup is. I don't really think anyone knows what Chelsea's best team is. Look, whatever the project is, whatever the plan is, it is great to be able to, for example, against Bournemouth, it's great to be able to chuck on Nkunku, Sancho, and Joao Felix from the bench in order to change a game. That's unbelievable options to have. But at the same time, it also creates a little bit of an issue there in terms of balance, in terms of who to play. You realistically right now, Madueke and Palmer are definitely starting on current form. So you've got Nkunku, Jackson, Neto, Felix, Mudryk, etc., all going for really 1, maybe 2 spaces. And so it does create problems in itself. But just on the attack, bro, what have you made of Nkunku? Because obviously, he's coming for big money. There was a lot of expectation around him. Started the previous preseason under Poch really well, then picked up the injury, and it just didn't happen for him last season. This season, he started preseason. He's done well again there. He's only started 1 game in the league. Obviously, the first one against City, and then he scored 2 penalties against Servette, which actually really helped us in the end. We needed them. But Maresca's not fancied him an awful lot in the league so far. I think, again, like a lot of these attacking players, you're not really sure where to fit him in. But the reality is he probably is the best finisher at the football club and the most clinical player at the club. So, what have you made of Maresca's use of him so far? And how do you see him potentially fitting into a more regular slot in the lineup? Because I do think he needs to be in there, but I can't really work out really where he fits, because I think Jackson offers a lot more than him. But then if I want a chance to fall to someone, I want it falling to Nkunku.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because we've almost signed players that mean that he's not really a priority anymore, which is weird and strange because he's such a good player. Everybody saw what he did at Leipzig. He could have and would have been in that France World Cup squad if he wasn't injured. And when you're making France World Cup squads, you have to take notice, because that's a quality player that you've got there, 100%. So for me, I think his strongest position is off the striker as a second striker, as a 10, because that's just what I saw at Leipzig. I think he's great at connecting the dots. I think he's a great player to kind of arrive in the box, but not an outlet that I would want leading the line and being the focal point. I don't think his best work is done back to goal, or shrugging off, 6'2", 6'3" centre backs, Van Dijk's and Konate's, if we were to come up against them with him up front. So I don't see this as like a long-term solution. I also don't know if he can physically, get through the season playing that position in terms of the demand, because he's not durable. But he is the best finisher. And because we didn't bring in a striker like a Gyökeres or Isak or whoever, we've left ourselves in a position where he is the only competition for Jackson. I'd prefer him up front than a Felix. I'd prefer him up front than a false 9 Sancho. So you kind of are forced into using him there sparingly here and there when you feel like you need to. But at the same time, Jackson still needs to be very much part of the plan, because he's the only recognised striker we have in the squad. I think he's At the moment, I'm not panicking because I think also his minutes do have to be managed, same as maybe Pedro Neto, same as maybe whoever else is very much iffy on injuries. And then hopefully as the season goes on with this new medical team, they build them up to be stronger and stronger. He can't get in that 10 right now. It's not an option until there's a time where we're playing Palmer on the right wing, which really would assume to be that there is a right back overlapping him, giving him width, and then there's a 10 space open. Right now, Palmer, I know he didn't play great last game, but he's obviously coming off the back of a knock. We know what Palmer can do. He's the best attacker in the team at the moment. The only place he could play is up front, because I also don't really want him on the left wing. And the left wing is even more crowded. I mean, the left wing is, like you said, it's ridiculous. We've got Sancho, we've got Neto, we've got Felix, who's going to have to think about playing out there as well. I think Felix is almost going to become a backup 10, which is kind of what I expected when he came in, which was, yeah, your best position for me is a 10. You're going to be a backup 10 to whoever's playing in the 10, and you're going to have to make these impacts off the bench. It's going to be difficult for him to find a start. Sancho's had a great start at left wing. I think he's got a start against West Ham based on that performance. Neto could play both sides. It's like you said, it's great options to have, and it means that you only really need 2 people out of 6 or 7 or 8 actually to be on form, because that will be enough probably to win the game or to get goals. But for Nkunku, I think he has no choice but to become a striker, at least until January. Yeah.
No, I would agree. I mean, just last couple of things, bro. You touched on Sancho, obviously a little bit of a surprise signing, I feel. I think like a lot of Chelsea's business in this window, just gone an opportunity. If you can get him back to his Dortmund form, 25 million quid is an absolute bargain for a player of his quality. Had a great debut against Bournemouth, really impressed, and changed the game for us, injected some much needed life into our performance. Again, this is a fresh start for him. We don't want to see the Man United Sancho. We want that Dortmund Sancho. How do you see him fitting? And obviously, I think he's predominantly going to play down the left-hand side. I don't want to compare him to Mudryk, but we saw Mudryk have a great debut against Liverpool, and then it's not really happened. We still need to see more from Sancho. Obviously, it's a great start. Yeah. But how do you see him developing here? And sort of what do you see his role being in this side? Because he can sort of play both, but he's predominantly probably better off the left, and he linked up nicely. Do you see him playing a big part this season?
It's purely up to him. I think he could potentially be given the keys if he plays to the level that warrants giving them to him. He's always had the talent. He's come through City's academy, so Joe Shields obviously knows him well. And anybody that comes through the City academy these days, their technical side of the game is locked up. So it's all about mental. He's a mental player in terms of, we saw his link up, smooth with every pass, intelligent with every action. His vision's fantastic. He's making these passes into the box. He reminds me when he first was brilliantly, blazing away at Dortmund. It was him and Hudson-Odoi I wanted in the same Chelsea team. I remember going crazy on Twitter trying to have Sancho as the hashtag, because these are intelligent wingers. These are wingers that see the picture. These are wingers that understand the game and can cross and can create and can give assists. And even though he's not the most explosive, and that was my biggest concern. First of all, his mental, and whether he's going to actually be consistent and come with the same, attitude every game. And that's something that we'll see at the end of the season, because that's what Man United fans have been banging the drum about. But also then obviously the lack of explosiveness, the lack of pace. People have said, "Oh, Premier League, can he do it in this league?" But his control is ridiculous. The way he just nutmegged that player and just went through him. We need more of that. So I've always liked him, but at the same time, he wasn't necessarily needed because we already had so many options. So it just means for me that Mudryk, unfortunately, I think his Chelsea career is over. I'll be honest. That's how I see it. I'm not even going to throw a bone or, say, oh, there's a chance. There isn't, because if Maresca's saying he loves Sancho, and he's brought in him on top of Neto, on top of Felix as well. And then you add in Esteval, Kenji Paez coming in, Madueke is trying to kick on, Palmer. There's no room. There's honestly no room for him. Even Chukwuemeka has to be involved back into the team now and integrated into Conference League games. That's going to take up minutes. Tyreek George just banged in a hat trick against Brentford under-21s. When he came on in the last Conference League game, he was looking better. Mudryk's Chelsea career is over. I'm quite confident in saying that, and I think it's just a matter of time before people in the ownership or in the hierarchy just come to terms with the fact that sign has not gone very well, and he's moved on, because there's a clear difference between Maresca having to hold his hand, give him instruction, kind of blaze him in press conferences and say, yo, this is this and this is that. In comparison to Sancho, who just comes on and makes these moves. And I know it's early, like you said, but for me, what's up here is not going to disappear. It's all about, in terms of the way he plays the game, it's just really consistency and attitude. But I think Sancho and Felix and players like this, they understand it's their last opportunity at a big club. If they don't perform this season and Chelsea decide to turn the other way, there is nowhere to go for these guys apart from downwards. And even Neto obviously coming on in his debut against Wolves and making that blistering run off the ball to set up Felix. This is something we've been crying out and asking for from Mudryk for the longest. So Mudryk might have tools, people will say, but mentally he doesn't have it, and we just don't have the time. There's too much pressure on us this season to perform, and we've got too many options over there. So I think once that signing was made, for me, that was clear that it's done for him.
No, I agree. I do like him, but as you say, you can't keep saying, "Oh, this guy's got ability. He's got all the tools there." Until it starts happening, you just can't keep making those excuses. So he's going to have opportunities to play on Thursday night probably, and he's going to have to make the most of them. But unless he does a madness, then I agree with the Brazilian kids coming in. Unless he does a madness and other guys drop off big time, then it probably is wraps for him at the club, and just has to go down as one of them ones which is going to go down as a disappointment, as probably a number of these transfers will. That's just the way it goes. Last thing, bro, West Ham, just a quick little look ahead to that one. As we referenced earlier, the record's not particularly good there. They've not had a great start to the season either. I think they've got one win. A lot of new signings there. How do you expect this one going? Obviously, Enzo's back in training, as is Gusto and Lavia, so big positives there. Hopefully, we won't see Disasi at right back again. But this is a tough game. How do you see this one going? What are you expecting?
Very tough game. Very, very tough game. Like, this is why we needed the 3 points against Bournemouth, because it's games like this where I know West Ham are still trying to integrate their new players, but they have quality, Kudus and Bowen, and they have enough quality to cause many, many problems, especially to a defense like ours, which is still not settled. I think Colwell's starting to come into his own, but, the rest need to fall in line as well. If we do get past them, it's going to be by the odd goal, and it's going to be very close. We, like you said, we don't have a great record there. I think the key here is that we don't make that Disasi decision again. That's the first thing. We're not. If Gusto's not fully fit and he's just come off the injury, and I know he's back in training, but maybe we need to lean on the side of precaution, because Reece James has no return date. So now Gusto becomes even more important. Maybe we do give him a bit more time to get into it. We'll see on the press conference on Friday. But if that is the case, for me, I want to see, Fofana, Tosin, same thing I saw in the second half against Bournemouth. I actually really think Achampong can perform at this level. I think he can give us something, but I think it's fairer to him to play him in Conference League first, play him in Carabao Cup first, see how he does there, and then give him Premier League. But I still have him over Disasi as well. If it comes down to that, I'd play him over Disasi. But it's West Ham away. We need experience, I think, as well. Not to throw him straight in there. And I think Tosin was really good against Bournemouth. He just calmed everybody down. And then after that, it's about the midfield. The attack will sort itself out. I think regardless of who starts in the attack, we know who's going to be on the bench. And then that just means we should just get stronger as the game goes on if we have to bring people on, whatever the manager feels. But in the midfield, right, as the midfield currently stands, it really pains me that we don't keep one of Santos or Kachuku, because I don't trust Cassidy. I don't think he's ready personally. And I don't really know what the method to the madness with Dewsbury Hall really is at the moment. I know I have to give him his first season because that's kind of my rule. But people talk about the system. He's not Jorginho to Sarri. He's not that integral to the way Maresca plays. It's pretty obvious, with his profile. What he does, everybody else in the attacking midfield areas should be able to do at a higher level, in terms of, if he's a good crosser, okay, we should have a better crosser. If he's a good shooter, okay, we should have a better shooter. Good passer, okay, we should have a better passer, because he was in the Championship last season. He's not a young player. He's not like a Mason Mount or a Tomori or a James who's just developing so rapidly. So he was always going to be a squad player for me. But the problem is we already had squad players potentially that we'd already signed that have a much higher ceiling. As long as those guys develop, those two names, and they come back and they're integrated, then fine, it looks good, because at least you've kicked their careers on. But if we just sell them and Dewsbury Hall doesn't kick on, and it just becomes a circle of PSR, and it's just annoying, because when we actually do good scouting work and I actually believe in the young players we sign, I'm like, oh, this is a really good find. And then you don't really have a plan for them, or you just to sell them for profit. And then you've got players that are not better taking up squad positions, and then we might need them in the season. You know, it's frustrating. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with that midfield, because I don't think the midfield worked really against Bournemouth. But maybe it's just giving Renato another game and saying, yo, you just go again.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. I think we're just going to have to sort of try and vibes our way through it. Seems to be what we kind of do at the moment. We will create chances, just whether we're going to take them or not, and can we sort of sort ourselves out at the back. Those are going to be the big things. But yeah, it's a massive game. I'll be honest, bro. I'll take a point right now at this stage. I really will. Yeah, I'll take a point. Yeah, we got a bad record there, and you know it's lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday. It's never ideal that. And considering we beat Bournemouth, I think if you get 4 points from Bournemouth and West Ham away, going into 4 home games afterwards, I don't think that's dreadful. But yeah, we do need to start picking up wins and you know, getting them points on the balls. As you referenced earlier, you don't want to start falling behind Newcastle, Villa, etc., because it can be hard to make points up on these teams. But yeah, bro, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. Pleasure to catch up as always. I mean, if for whatever reason people don't know what you do, where should they go?
Just MAH on YouTube. That's where all my focus is right now. All the content is at the moment, videos, watch alongs. And then yeah, you can find me on Big Six, DR, couple platforms here and there. But yeah, it's at the moment I'm locked in. I'm treating every game like a Champions League final. And I'll be honest, I'm not taking a point, bro. I'm not taking a point.
Nah, that's fair.
Like the day I'm still living in the past, and every game is you got to win, unless it's like an Etihad that we're going to or an Anfield.
Yeah,
I'm not taking a point. Even Arsenal, it makes me ill to say a point, but I'll probably take a point at the Emirates as well. But apart from that, bro, I'm still Didier Drogba in his prime mentally. I'll be honest. I'm not playing with this lot. I need a win against West Ham.
No, we all do. Yeah, guys, make sure you check out Matisse's channel. Be tagged in the title. Go and show him some love. Heading towards 100k, so help him get there. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and catch you again in another one soon.